Well, I'm excited to have Ali Ahmad, founder and CEO of Sportstech, and Ousmane, VP of Product at Sportstech. Your first time on the L.I.F.T.S podcast. I think you're the first home connected German fitness company that we've had. That was a mouthful on the L.I.F.T S podcast. So
and first in English as well.
First for Ali in English. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
How have you found the event? What would be some of the things that have resonated with you from the sessions that you've been to?
It's very interesting. So we like to see those innovations here. It's our first time here in New York. For me, it's the first time. And really, yeah, we enjoy it. We saw there is a lot of good things, especially the AI things, also very interesting for us. So we enjoy it. It's a bit different than the FIBO, the fair where we always go in Germany. It's quite smaller, so but I like it.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys do, your company, and the goals for the company.
Yeah, so our company is doing fitness connected devices in Germany. We designed the product, we developed the product in the heart of Germany, in Berlin. And we have, the company is founded 2012. And at the beginning, we started with the non-connected devices. Later, from 2019, also Ousmane joined the company. And then we saw the amazing improvements of the US companies like Peloton. And we said, okay, let's try it in Germany. And then we started it. Takes really a lot of time and a lot of money. It was very hard for us as a bootstrap company, right? So it was very hard, but Ousmane and his team have done an amazing job. Yeah.
So how would you describe for people watching or listening your first product that you came out with?
The first product, the first fitness connected product was on the bike from us. Yeah, we also have always think about how to make it different from Peloton. We think about a lot of time. We have integrated, for example, the LED function, pulse-based LED function. It's also patented technology from us. So, and yeah, we jump in, I take the risk, and I have those brave, and I said, okay, let's try it. But we felt really it's very difficult to connect the whole machine was the display was the machine, and it's the first time we have to tell our suppliers to change the part suppliers, search for new part suppliers as well, especially for the display. And then when it comes to technology, and our company is much more stronger from the hardware side, but I said, okay, Sportstech, there is the name tech behind sports. It's time to go into the technology, and then we start to develop our own app and everything. And this really was hard, but it was it. So it's always a very difficult transformation from the hardware company to a software company. And but we believe that that's the future, and we are the only German company who did it, and we are proud of it.
And looking at fitness, I think fitness, a lot of people think it's global, it's an international language, but in reality, fitness is not. There's fitness that we think about from a Western perspective, but even in the West, you have fitness in the American sense, which is, high energy, in some cases, entertainment fitness like a SoulCycle and others, and it's more broadly accessible. Then you've got, let's just say fitness in Asia, which is very, very new. Fitness in the Middle East is booming and kind of growing, but it's still very new. Fitness in Germany is also very different, and I think I'd love for you to speak a bit about that, because a lot of American brands, including Peloton, American gyms as well, have dabbled by going into Europe, and typically they go to the UK first, then they'll try to go into other countries. No one's really been successful. Yeah. So what do you think it is about, one, speak a bit about the markets that you are the strongest in. I know you're strong in Germany. What other markets are you strong in? And then what is it about the German markets that you've unpacked that American companies or other companies have found it very difficult to do?
So when it comes to the content, I think that Ousmane can say something about the content.
Sure. I think you guys are very lucky. You're at the Mecca. Fitness has a high importance culturally, and it's Germany and Europe. It's very different. It's more conservative, if I could call it like that. But still, people are wary about their health. They want to become more active, and that's why it's definitely an uprising trend. but you have to adapt the way that you communicate, basically. So it starts with the trainer selection, animated, charismatic trainers, such as here in the US, are a strength, definitely. But German people like very matter-of-fact, science-based, calm, cool, collected content. So you have to adapt your content accordingly. And I think that's one of our strong points, that we are German people, born and raised, and we customize the content according to.
But it's more than, it's even the equipment side, right? Because you are the largest home fitness supplier in the German market.
Oh, really? You're
Okay.
okay.
We are the largest.
They're the largest.
Home
So
fitness.
which a lot of people don't know. When I got to know them,
that.
they are the
Yeah.
biggest fitness company that like people have never heard of. So what have you kind of unlocked in the German market, and how, what is your go-to-market strategy?
Everything began was in a treadmill. Personally, my backstory is that I was overweighted, and I started looking for some treadmills on the German market. Right, I go to Amazon online and Google, and I found there a lot of them are very boring. So,
Kettler would probably be the biggest. Are they your biggest competitor?
Yeah, right. Kettler, it was the biggest competitor, or like Hammer. But I found they are really boring devices, non-intelligent display like this. Said, okay, we can do it better. And there is exactly the idea of Sportstech born. So I have really created Sportstech. And then the first treadmill, really amazing sales. Everything runs amazing. But it was in a smart display, but it was not this connected device as we know from Peloton. So I already started this 2013, 14. We had those smart display devices. So we penetrate the market very well. We got really very, very large market share. We're very good at Amazon. We almost cracked the Amazon algorithm. We can say like this. We understand the end consumer business very well. When it comes for the marketing material, amazing pictures. Every picture have to be perfectly as I like to have. So usually German companies doesn't really focus on content when it comes to marketing on that level as in US. So, and we come here and try to learn from all companies over the world, and we put a lot of energy in those marketing. We get a customer base over 2 million customers. So we almost hit the 3 million end of the year. So that's helped us a lot. So then we said, okay, it's time to go to the next step. We go to this, the things with the fitness connected, and was a bike, was a display and everything. We found, of course, it's very tough. We found, okay, asking German customers for subscription, it's not so easy. So then we're starting to really figure out what exactly for subscription package is really fitting the market, right? And so me and Ousmane really struggling at the beginning. We said, okay, firstly, we need to make it for 1 year free, and then later we still need to improve it. Ask them now, we have the paid subscription since March. You think you have some data to say something about it?
Yeah, I was about to say that subscriptions are being adopted now in Europe and Germany. There were definitely some growing pains. But pretty much every trend that you know here from the US is translating slowly over there. We took the risk to start that trend very early. We have to thank Peloton also for all their flaws. They did introduce this concept to Europe and Germany, and we piggybacked on it and we adapted it, in my humble opinion, better for the German region, and that's kind of a secret.
So with Peloton, I guess, do they have a German version that you compete with? And how, if so, how do you compete with them? Are you bigger, or are they, like, what's the...
So when it comes to the size of company, of course, Peloton is an amazing big size. When it comes to Germany, we have the higher traffic. That's a very important one. We have the bigger product range, which helps us a lot. As I said, there is a lot of customers stop that journey maybe was a small treadmill and say, okay, now there is a trend with the bike. Okay, they had a good experience with Sportstech, and over 95% of our products have more than 4.5 stars. So we have a really very, very good feedback. We really care about this. Customer service is for us one of the best, most important thing. And this is what we pay attention. So all our products, if you look there, have an amazing review. We care about this, care about the voice of the customer, improving the products based also on the customer's needs. And as we know, the German standard is very high. That's also something which is also not so easy to fulfill. But we had a really good QC department, built there a very strong way to improve the products based on that quality. And one more thing I want to add is that Peloton is did really an amazing job in Germany, right? So this, nobody can have doubt about this. But what those guys have done is really they put too much in one time. It needs time, sometimes it needs time to grow organically. So as I said, we are on the German market since 13 years, right? But never spent so much money as them when they came here, right? So they really get very popular from day one, amazing. Next day, everyone knows Peloton. But they, as I said, the German market, and as Ousmane also said, it needs time to adapt to the idea of subscription. So it's going better from year to year, from day to day, it's getting better. People start to accept, and as we know from the news, that Peloton have leave the market, Germany. So there's also, since this news get announced, our sales get increased. So that's how the business runs.
What is the relevance of you being a German company? And the reason I ask, like we operated in Germany for probably 12 years. And as Mo related to earlier, like there's a lot of international companies that come into Germany and think it's obviously a huge market, affluent market, but so many international companies really struggle. And just speaking, I guess, to anyone in the sort of business community, like what do you think is a good way to come in if you want to get involved in Germany? Like I sense that there's a big respect for German companies buying from German people. Like there seems to be that kind of that feeling in the market. Like would you partner with someone if you are an international brand, or because certainly it seems coming and doing it on your own, particularly if you're waving the American flag or the British flag or anything else, is probably not the best way to come in.
Yeah.
If I could answer that, I think there's kind of this novelty aspect if American or international firms come to Germany, but it's pretty short-lived. So I think if you want to have credibility, they are pretty old-fashioned, and if they see the German tag, they kind of respect it straight away. They know it comes with certain values. So I think that if you want to have good market penetration, it kind of requires to partner up with some type of German aspect.
Yeah. So it's also a question of focus, right? So the US, the US business is for the fitness industry is the largest one, right? Especially for fitness connected. So if I'm a US-based company, right, and I have 98%, 95% of my business is here, it depends on how much focus I want to put there. So if I mean it really serious, then I have really to see maybe to make partnerships with some local companies, or like this could maybe be the better option than go there and create a team from zero. So that's the point. So, and that's what most of the US companies have done. They go there, say, okay, let's drop the products there and let's just change a bit with the marketing, hire some people there. In my mind, that's not enough. It's really not enough. So those US big companies should think about how to really enlarge their enterprise companies through maybe acquisitions or like this, and partnerships with German strong companies. This could be maybe a better fit than always go there and build a company from zero.
The wait is over. Our new Escape Fitness catalogue has landed. This is the essential guide to all of the latest product innovations that are shaping the future of functional training. Bigger and better than ever, this year's catalogue is 190 pages, jam-packed with everything from eye-catching, bespoke functional training frames to some of the latest strength training equipment. So sign up today to receive the digital version today. So what are you waiting for? Go to escapefitness.com now.
And Matthew, that goes for every European country, be it France, Spain, Italy. I've lived in Paris for 8 years. Very proud people.
Yeah.
You have to address them in a certain way, preferably in their own language. So
given that, so you have a market-leading position in home fitness, at least as it relates to cardio equipment. I know you've got some strength equipment as well, but really it's mostly cardio. In I would say all the German-speaking countries, not just German, all the German-speaking countries. What is next for Sportstech?
For Sportstech is next to make a partnership with some global strong partners to try to bring those strengths, those nice experience which the US companies especially are doing here. They really have an amazing experience. If we try to connect this with the German experience we have, I think that we can create something is really amazing. It's incredible. So that's what we are trying to figure out here. And I think that with those kind of partnerships, we have also the capability to try to get some top products which we develop for the German market, which also can fit the US market as well. So it can be goes in two sides, right? And we are adapting very fast. As we heard, AI is also something what's really getting really bigger so quickly. And we also believe that we can be, and Ousmane and his team are working already on the AI things. So, and I think that this is for Sportstech also the next step. So that means German customers will get a benefit of those technologies. And if, of course, there is partnerships there, it will be something amazing.
I've got one more quick question for you guys. Like we've been speaking to a number of people today, and even investors that are looking at the commercial space and the consumer space, and it certainly seems as though the consumer space has gone through a lot of turmoil, particularly since the pandemic. You know, there's definitely been a rebound to people going back to gyms, for example. Like, how do you view that space? Clearly, you're optimistic because that's the business that you're in. But you know, being very real, based on a lot of the concerns about the potential for that market and maybe a slowdown, how would you describe where that particular market is currently?
So one mistake in my mind I have done is not really doing the subscription things earlier. So I told this to Ousmane a lot of time, let's jump earlier, right? Now we jump it in, we see the people's accept it, so it's working, right? So if the product is good, the content is good, and the company behind it doing a good service, good marketing, all those things, it works good. So this is also numbers are increasing of those kind of products and those kind of subscription. So this is for me a good sign. So when it comes to home fitness overall, during the pandemic, everybody knows it was like a nuclear bomb. So for us as the business, it feels like this from day to the other day times two. So we had 120 million on the top line revenue during the pandemic, and then now it's about 60. So of course it's dropped. That's normal. So and I think that a lot of companies go through the same tough things as we go through. But finally, we have found a way how to really balance out this. And from the consumer side, so what we see is the people like to still do fitness at home. So, and our sales for treadmills, so we are the biggest treadmill seller in Germany. I want to highlight this. And for the home fitness devices, so what we see is there is a growth of the market, but there is, of course, the peoples are more price sensitive. We have to be honest about it. That's a point. But as company, you need to adapt this. So you need to find, okay, different price ranges, different specifications, different lower entry barrier. So those things are what we are now improving from the product management, and we're getting a lot of good feedbacks, and the people love it. And finally, we want to help the users to reach their fitness goals. And we're trying everything for this as well for gamification. We just released our first game. We have some good fitness games additional, which we'll release soon. So I think this, so trying to create those ecosystem of different kind of product range from the fitness, from the home fitness, these things can create incredible things. So that's in my mind is that the home fitness will always be there. There's a lot of people who love the home fitness. They also go to the gym. It's a hybrid, so it will always work. So I personally use the bicycle instead of the car, right? So that's, and when it's not winter, I use the bicycle or bike at home. So and when it comes to home office, there are people like to use now walking pads, right? And I have to say we are the walking pad seller number one in Germany, creating also a commercial solution as well for the walking pad. We believe there is opportunities always there, and we need just to hit the opportunities on the right time, and that's what we're trying.
And to emphasize that point, I think we are, especially Gen Z, is moving to a hybrid model. So it's a combination of gym and home. And so the connected fitness space at home will never disappear. It's here to stay.
Yeah, sure.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Ben Stallworthy with your Reformer. We're excited to have you on. And before I let you go, we have a special guest co-host in Krissy Vann from All Things Fitness and Wellness. Krissy, we're so excited to have you on.
Yes, so happy to be here. Podcasters unite.
Podcasters unite. We ran into you yesterday, and you're going to be joining a couple of our podcasts while we're here at Beyond Activ. So If folks want to listen and download to your podcast, it's called All Things Fitness and Wellness, and you have a really good setup, and you have a great slew of executives coming on.
Yeah, it's so nice to know that this industry is growing. And I think the biggest thing we know is everyone's ultra passionate about what we're accomplishing here. So more platforms to share the message, I'm on board.
Well, we love it. Thank you for coming on. But we have Ben Stallworthy here. Ben, you and I have had a chance to connect over the last couple of months. I've gotten to know what you do with your Reformer. You're entering an incredibly, I would say, hot, trending, I don't know what the right word is, industry in Pilates. You are coming all the way from Australia, now coming to the US. You're moving your family here. I mean, there is a lot happening. So why don't you tell us and tell the audience a bit about yourself and your Reformer?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mo. Thanks, Matt. Great to be here. I started my journey in the fitness industry back at the age of 22 when I actually brought my first health club.
Okay.
I was previous health club chain owner. We had 6 health clubs. We sold the health clubs, and Your Reformer was born 3 years ago. It was a bit of a pandemic story, really, because what happened was when the gyms closed down, of course, we all had to use that famous word, the pivot word, and look at what we're going to do with the Reformer Pilates. So we had Reformer Pilates studios in all of our gyms. We knew how to grow yield. We saw the success of that within our clubs.
Yeah.
But when we had to shut down, we then saw an opportunity to rent out those Reformer beds. I personally delivered all those beds to our community. They went so fast. And when it was time to actually pick them up, we realized our community didn't want to give them back. So even though we had the studios, they still wanted access to the studios, but they didn't want to give the beds back. So when we sold our business, sort of, everyone has that moment of like, wow, we've just exited, what's next?
Yeah.
It was a pretty surreal moment, but feet get itchy, and we remember that. And really, Your Reformer is all about making Reformer Pilates accessible, right? So we saw an opportunity to actually help more people through Reformer Pilates, the benefits of Reformer Pilates, which is a huge list. And to do that and make it more accessible for the clientele we target, we knew we had to take it to homes all over Australia.
So I guess, what about, you, from your perspective, makes Your Reformer more accessible than potentially going to the studio or potentially getting another Reformer product out there?
I think it's our digital content, really. We have 20 different categories. We've got 650 classes within our content. Mm-hmm. We add that content weekly. So, we've got a great community. I think aesthetically our beds are beautiful. So in design, they're sleek. They're made in a way to be really comforting in the house and really complement, I guess, the furniture and the aesthetics of someone's home. And not only that, we offer a rental model as well. So it's actually quite a really easy entry for people to rent a Reformer, have the app at home, that digital element, so they're feeling supported. I think the greatest thing with the digital side of things with Reformer is not only do you get the visual cues, you get the auditory cues as well. So in some ways, it helps people get started with Reformer Pilates compared to the studio environment. However, we're not here to replace the studio environment. Yeah. We love the absolute studio environment. 85% of our people community that have Reformers at home do still go to their local studio as well. Yeah.
You got in the business at a very interesting time. You mentioned the pivot, and a lot of companies went through that period, and then there was definitely a correction where the clubs opened again, and issues with things like supply chain, and then is the demand there like it was before? How are you finding things in the markets that you operate for 2024? Like, how did it start, and where are we today, would you say, from a business performance perspective?
Yeah, so from a business performance perspective, the gyms are going really well in Australia. I can only talk to Australia at the moment, new to the US, so they've bounced back extremely well. I guess the focus really is on growing yield. So all clubs at the moment are looking at how do they tier their membership, what do they need to do to create that, essentially. And I guess when you look at Reformer Pilates, it's one of those products people do pay a premium for, right? So we fit directly into that model. A lot of clubs are having a lot of success with chasing that yield, and they're doing a great job of creating zones so people feel special when they go to that type of area within the gym. Wellness is exploding, and I think it's a really exciting time for the industry.
Just leaping off of that, but I know for yourselves, you're speaking there, you really went the B2C route, but we're here at Beyond Activ, and so yes. B2B, not the original plan, I understand, because I was speaking with your wife, Emma.
That's right, yeah. So we started off going D2C to make Reformer Pilates more accessible, and then we looked at our digital content and went, hey, how do we make this more accessible for health clubs, for facilities, for hotels, for the different verticals that are out there that have gyms, right? And yeah, on the back of that, very successfully, we implemented our Kiosk Pro solution, our digital, and now clubs can implement Reformer Pilates. So it's small footprint clubs, like 500 square meter clubs can now have a Reformer Pilates offering with our digital on demand, and then charge an additional yield for that service. So yeah, B2B for us, like we're now in 8 to 10 of the major health clubs in Australia. So it's a massive part of our business. Big reason we wanted to come to the US. Really excited about the product and where it can go here. Yeah.
What are you thinking for the rest of this year in the markets? Because you're now in the US, obviously spent quite a bit of time researching what's happening here. How do you sort of, what are your predictions for how this year will end, particularly on the state side? Because there's a lot of I guess instability in a number of areas, particularly from the political side, that I'm sure is affecting how people are investing in new studios and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think at the same time, I think clubs are looking for something different. So I actually think it's a really good time to make a change. The boutique marketplace is going crazy. So franchises are growing out of control with Reformer Pilates. I mean, Club Pilates is 1,000 studios, right? Let's not forget that. These guys started ages ago. So Pilates isn't a new thing. I think it's still new to the health club space over here. And there's a massive uncapped potential for clubs to put it in, demand the yield, which they'll get, they will, offer a great service. So yeah, I think there's a lot of brands now, from what I'm hearing, are just looking at what their structure looks like for next year, and it's a perfect time to do it. Yeah.
So I'm curious, looking at just Pilates again, why do you think Pilates is so popular? Why is it trending? You have Solid Core, who's in a process right now, potentially for an acquisition. You've got Pilates studios, like you mentioned, Club Pilates continuing to grow. What about the modality? I mean, who does it speak to? And then I guess tag on to that question is, what is the TAM? Like, is there a cap? Is this going to be at some point like spinning, where you plateau and you even trend downwards?
Yeah, good question. First of all, what is it about the modality? Like, it talks to females, let's be honest. There is a big female population doing Reformer Pilates. There's a lot more males now getting involved. Yeah. I think the list of benefits, really is what's bringing people into Reformer initially. Mm-hmm. And then the fact that it's low impact, they can continue doing it, right? We're so good as an industry bringing people in that are beginners, hitting them so hard that they want to get off, and then choose a different pathway. Whereas Reformer, they come in, they're not intimidated, they've got springs, so they've got ways to change their resistance. Yeah. So it's just such a great way for a beginner to actually get back into fitness, feel like they belong to a community. Pretty small classes, so it's quite communal. And yeah, the results, and it's
not new though, is it? Like, I've been in the industry for 25 years, and it seems that it's always been there. People have always been talking about it. But as Mo and I chatted last night, suddenly, like, everybody's talking about Pilates. And that was the curious thing as to, what's caused this sudden shift. There's both on the business model side, but also on the manufacturing side, there's a number of different players that haven't been involved in the market, just coming into that space.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a modality for a long time. Like, if I talk to the Australian market, it started in the clinical scene. We ran clinical Pilates, classes were packed, people couldn't get in. All of a sudden that happens. And I think what we do so well as a fitness industry, we grab a concept or a vertical and go, how can we make this more fun? How can we add elements to it to make it more mainstream, more accessible to more people? So, that's something I think the fitness industry should be really proud of, that, we've been able to grab a product that was traditionally more clinical, more rehab based, to now bring it into a mainstream fitness, and the benefits are there. So, yeah. And back to Mo's question before, like, I don't see it as a trend. Like, it's been around a long time. It's the customers that we've got just absolutely love it. We see the usage in our digital platform. Like, there is no sign of this slowing down. It's coming, and it's only growing. So
your consumer is also way more educated as well. And I think we can't really discount the merit that social media has on what we're seeing in regards to Pilates, because at the end of the day, I can't scroll my feed on Instagram or TikTok without seeing some of these classes taking place. And post-pandemic, to your point, people want a more holistic view of their fitness. When you talk about males in the Reformer classes, I see it in my own
Absolutely.
gym. They're also the same ones that are now dominating the green field to work on their mobility because they're like, oh, muscle lengthening. Maybe I don't need to lift the 120-pound dumbbells all day because it's doing a disservice. And I think that education is a byproduct of these social media influencers that are like, maybe we need to rejig how we were thinking about how to build a physique and a body, not for the now and the aesthetic, but for the long-term longevity.
Krissy, are you seeing that from a female perspective? Like it's not come across my feed for whatever reason. It probably will now. We're speaking about it. I'm sure,
It's listening for sure.
But is that what you're seeing? A lot of these different influencers that are now sort of using that as a way of getting into shape and stuff.
Yeah, without question. And I think to the point where you talk about certain boutique studios where they're implementing that fun element, so it's hyper visual. When you look at your product itself, you're a reformer, your bread and butter, a lot of it is the aesthetic, because not to discount the mechanics, I understand there's quality and research that goes into manufacturing a product like that. But at the end of the day, if somebody is putting that into their home, they're like, this is a chic piece of workout equipment to put in my home. Because otherwise, you're not going to put something the size of a bed in your extra space and square footage.
And you don't want to see the cables dangling and like a typical reformer does. But it's funny, to your point, we're talking last night just about bands, resistance workouts, low impact workouts. And by the way, I am doing a solid core class on Thursday. So here's a guy doing Pilates.
Yeah.
So I think it is. I think it's you're welcome to.
You just do every single workout imaginable. I think
I try to fit it all in. Because I like mixing the modalities. But every week I do challenge myself because it's so important. You get stuck in a routine, and repetitive things are good, but one of the worst things you could do physically and mentally is to do the same thing every single day and be incredibly structured. We used to think it's a good thing, but a little bit of change is not a bad thing. So now every week I try to do something different that I don't usually.
And I bet it's humbling because I just did a 5K with an abysmal time. I'm a very fit person. 33 minutes.
Okay.
It was my third run of the year though, in fairness. But I'm like, as an active individual, when you challenge yourselves with these new modalities, you think, hey, I'm in great shape. But all of a sudden you learn different muscle groups, especially coming out of Pilates, you find muscles you didn't know existed in the body.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, back to that male piece, we've got professional athletes now with our reformers. We've got professional sporting clubs with our reformers within their sporting organizations. So I guess I was answering it on the, like, who are our avatars, I guess, when we're looking at that. But, we get emails literally weekly from our target customers, our customers, I should say, that their husbands now are on the reformers, right?
Well, the stigma is coming out. I mean, even in the US, Odell Beckham Jr., got big into Pilates because his girlfriend at the time was big into Pilates, and he credits a lot of his recovery from injury to Pilates. So I think that stigma is growing. But we're excited that you're going to be here in the US. It's a big move. You're coming into a market that is continuing to grow. What does your next kind of 6 months or year look like?
The next 6 months is really about building our team. Like, we've got such an amazing team back in Australia that are integral. Like, they're the heartbeat of our business. So we want to build a really strong foundation here, a US team that can really help take the business forward. We get the team right. Like, we've got the product right. We believe in the product. Now it's about getting the team right, building our partnerships. And I really see an opportunity to grow Reformer to more facilities here. So that'll be our focus, to grow to more facilities. And run a really strong direct-to-consumers, just so we can help our customers access Reformer Pilates. Okay,
well, thank you for coming on. I guess we'll be seeing your Reformer bed either in a gym or a home near you.
Absolutely, yeah. All right. Sure will, mate. We're starting delivering as of Thursday. Very exciting.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Ben.
Great, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Mike, good to see you at Beyond Activ.
Thanks for having me.
What brings you to New York?
Coming to New York here to network and catch up with people in the industry, as well as in the midst of launching a new company.
Well, we've been working on that together for a little bit over a year. You're here to launch a new company. Why don't you tell us a bit about what the company is?
Yeah, so the company is Bridge Health, and Bridge Health is integrating healthcare into fitness. We're providing health services into fitness centers so they can expand their offering and boost their bottom line with medical programs, RX prescriptions, and HSA, FSA support.
We're trying to get a feel for what's going on in the industry. You've just come out of one of the first sessions here. And from your perspective, you're developing a product, so you're looking to figure out, your position in the industry from a product perspective. And then my guess is you're also speaking to a lot of people that are potential clients. What's your assessment of 2024 year to date? What are you seeing? What's the general sort of pulse of the industry? And from your perspective.
Yeah, I think there's obviously rising costs happening amongst everybody in the space. So there's some competitive pressures, and we're dealing with how do we work with the advancement of technology and AI, and then how do we extend into this sort of health span, health services, the healthcare getting closer, GLP-1, right? So you're dealing with a variety of different factors, and I think it's really tough to figure out where the puck lands. And it's like, where do you take the business based on where the market's going? The market's shifting. I believe we're in the midst of a paradigm shift where consumer behavior is changing by technology, as well within sort of the GLP-1 healthcare side of the equation.
How do you think operators are doing generally from a performance perspective?
I think everybody is still working very tough to try to figure out how to get the same bottom line they got before with the increase in pricing and the increase in costs. That's tough to do. So I think we're still struggling a little bit from a brick and mortar perspective, and we're seeing more sort of offerings on the consumer side of the equation that's putting a little bit of pressure on that.
And what are your thoughts for the end of the year? We're in the US, we've got the elections coming up. Do you see that's going to, and potential changes in things like interest rates? Do you see that it's going to sort of continue to be flat for a while? Do you think once that's over, things, confidence is going to increase and you're going to see more investment? Where are you sort of guessing for the final part of this year?
It's a good question, because it depends on how things play out with the elections, right? And I think so going up to this, we're going to still see some turbulent times until we get past that, right? Because we somewhat have a divided country specifically around that. So I think we're going to have to just get through that. And then once we get to that other side post-November and figure out what's going to happen, then I think we can start to see a bit more increase in investments, in my opinion.
So with this new product, I think it seems like it's the right product for the time, but someone else can look at it and say, are you just jumping on a trend? Is GLP-1, this whole integration with healthcare and insurance, is it a trend? So I'd just love to get your thoughts on that. I mean, I don't think you would have done something just for it to be a fad or a trend, but everyone's trying to figure ways to plug in this GLP-1 story into their offering. How are you looking at GLP-1 and insurance? What's your perspective there?
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of context, I used to work in healthcare-specific hedge funds 20 years ago. And at that time when I was there, they went ahead and they used insurance with bariatrics for obesity for the first time. And I thought a bridge was going to form in our industry. And it's 20 years later and it still hasn't formed. So the way I look at it is I looked at this and said, you have healthcare, which is really sick care, and you have fitness, which is obviously built on people being healthy. Those are two very opposing business models. And when I looked at it, it wasn't about GLP-1, it was about figuring out how to bridge that gap. And that gap was not going to be bridged by either party. And so it required a third party to come in to do that, to provide an operating system to let the two connect. So I don't look at it as a trend, I just look at it as we have consumers that are driving towards this need of like health span and feeling good and things of that nature, and it requires for metabolic health, it requires the integration of healthcare. And it's a key part of it. It's a team sport. If you look at obesity care, it requires 6 different people to help somebody with being obese, right? Fitness is only one of that component. And so I saw this as an opportunity to build that platform to bring the two together.
And how is this different from some of the other offerings which are in market today, right? You've got companies that are providing FSA, HSA kind of discounting. You've got other ones that can provide this letter of medical need, again, to provide discounting to gym memberships. How is this different than what a gym or a fitness center might typically be used to?
Most of the offerings that are currently in the gym right now are what I consider to be self-pay, right? And so it requires the consumer to pay money to get access to GLP-1s if they qualify through compound labs, not using their insurance. Same thing with HSA, FSA. They're still paying for that consult to get that letter, which gives them a tax savings. What we've done is we've actually said, what if we could move up and take advantage of the existing benefits that most people have with their insurance and leverage that to go ahead and provide all these preventative services through a 26-week care plan focused on metabolic health. And then we actually took it a step further in the last mile to go ahead and say, can we get the gym to partake in that? Can we help them with navigation of care and the care plan so they can partake in that? And then we obviously pay them to assist us in helping that person go through that care plan. So it's a win-win-win. The consumer gets better services and health services at a point where they're motivated to try with the preventative care, and then at the same time, the gym gets compensated for assisting in that.
Have you had to raise funding for your particular project that you're working on at the moment?
We haven't had to raise external funding because this is a joint venture between a variety of different partners and different companies. This isn't something that's just a brand new startup. This is an existing opportunity that took place in other industries, and we brought together the best people, the best partners, and the best companies to do so.
What are you hearing, or what's your experience in terms of funding for the fitness space? I know probably about a year ago, wasn't as, I guess, there wasn't as much around as probably previously. How are you seeing that? Has it improved? Is there an appetite? If so, is there an appetite in specific areas? How would you describe that?
I think it depends on the market and what you're raising for, and specifically in this area where there's such a focus on health span. And I believe that we're entering into this new era of what I call engineered well-being, health optimization, biohacking, longevity, all that type of stuff. I think you're going to see a flood of money go into that space because I think that's where the industry's going. And if you look at some of the big investment shops that are out there and you look at their thesis around where does healthcare go, where does preventative go, where does wellness go, this aligns with that very, very well. And so I think those areas will get funding.
Should there be a concern around this being a bubble? There's a lot of money, to your point, going into healthcare and AI. And do you think this is a frothy timing where people are doing JVs or raising capital? Are you concerned about the bottom falling out from healthcare or AI?
No, because I think it's actually one of the biggest problems we have. If you look at it, I think it's 88% or 90% of people are not metabolically healthy, right? And when you have that bigger problem and you see that type of thing going on, you're going to continuously have money go to solve those problems, right? And you look at GLP-1 and you look at that, that's a huge shift, right? And you look at the impact that's had. I did a write-up on it, and I believe it was $263 in wellness wallet shifted with GLP-1 users from unhealthy to healthy purchasing, right? And when you see that sort of shift, that's not a bubble, right? That's a paradigm shift. It's like when cars went to electric.
What type of things are people shifting?
They're shifting from eating out. They're shifting from purchasing of sodas. They're shifting from alcohol expenditures, all that type of stuff. There's data on that. There's about over 90,000, I think, in the first report I saw come up, credit card statements. And they're shifting that to health and beauty and fitness. So plastic surgery is up 9%, and over 20% of the people doing plastic surgery are on Ozempic or GLP-1s. You've got fitness spend, you've got beauty spend, and so there's money to be taken and shoveled into this market. So,
are you seeing on that? Just you made me think. Like, have they broken that down into like beauty, foods, etc.? Is that sort of further segmentation?
They haven't shown exactly where the money goes. What they've shown is the reduction in spend. And then obviously we know there's an increase in spend in these three categories, but you can't do dollar to dollar transfer. It's just the opportunity for those in health, beauty, and fitness. That money is not being spent, so obviously it's going back into the wallet.
Excellent.
And I think a lot of what we're able to do today with Bridge Health and all the other initiatives, technology really pulled forward. So I look at the pandemic, I look at the barriers that the pandemic broke, like the openness of telehealth, the growth of wearables, the ability to do RPM, through a wearable is potentially in the near future. How important is technology in the new initiatives which you're building and other companies are working on?
Well, I think it's extremely important, obviously, to connect with people because you got to connect with people where they're at. You got to facilitate somewhat of a smoother facilitation of operations. Plus, in the stuff that we're doing, it requires a lot of people to be involved, from doctors to credentialed coaches to RDs to the gym, and there's a variety of different pieces of software. And so without it, you don't have the ability to scale. Could you do this in a single location with your people in the community? Potentially, but that's probably where it ends.
Okay. Well, Mike, thank you very much for your time today.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike.